All right, welcome back to This Week in Niche Pursuits News. My name is Jared Bauman, and I'm joined today by Josh Blackburn. Josh, welcome.
Hey, Jared, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Good. Going to be fun. Normally it's Spencer and I. Spencer's out this week, and you can't really pre-record these. It's all about the news for this week. So you're here joining us. Why don't you give us a little backstory so the audience knows who you are, and then we'll get into this week's topics.
Okay, yeah, I guess start off, maybe going backwards, right, is right now I work for Link Whisperer. I work for Spencer, handling the marketing. That's why I'm kind of filling in here. But I guess going back, I started building sites around 2010, just learning how to put all these pieces together. Sold a site right before the pandemic.
Nice.
Pandemic hit. I had been working in the oil industry, got laid off, decided to transition into SEO full-time. Went and worked at a local agency, then went and worked at a in-house for a gambling affiliate, and then now we're at Link Whisper here. So that's kind of the quick rundown of it.
The quick down and dirty. Now, when you got brought on at Link Whisper, did Spencer tell you were going to have to start going on podcast episodes?
No, because this wasn't a thing then, right?
True.
This was just kind of recently started. Like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? I'm like, hey, it's a great idea. He's like, you want to come on? I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Well, that changes things, but yeah, bring me on. So here we are.
Yeah, just to fill everybody in, this is a new segment, I guess you'll call it. Like, we've been doing this for 3 or 4 weeks now. We just sit down. It's like I kind of joke. It's like a fireside chat on this week's topics in Google search, website building, side hustle, like just kind of all topics that we know that our general audience has an interest in. So it's very open-ended. We bring a number of topics to the table. And so I'm excited to see what you brought forward. Before we jump into the podcast, I wanted to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by Search Intelligence. Here's a short clip of Ferry from Search Intelligence showing you how their agency built digital PR links to a client's website.
Do you remember this campaign? It was all over the news. It is the most intelligent royal campaign. With over 100 links generated in the world's biggest online publications, this is one of the most viral PR campaigns of 2021. This is how we've done it. The methodology was pretty simple. We looked at the QS World University rankings for the institutions attended by key members of the royal family to discover which royal is the brightest of all. Meghan Markle came out on top, followed by Kate Middleton and Prince William. We put these findings in a press release and sent it to mainstream media and journalists who write about royals. From Russia to the UK, the US, Vietnam and Japan, this story got massive coverage, landing over 100 links and created a massive buzz on social media. Simple research, but a great story that journalists love to write about. I hope this will put you on fire and will give you inspiration.
If you want similar link building PR campaigns for your website, head to search-intelligence.co.uk and get in touch with them now. Let's kind of dive in. I'm new at sharing my screen, so I will let the YouTube audience know that we'll ease into that. Spencer's normally the one to handle screen sharing. If you're listening on the audio, by the way, most of our interviews don't have much going on the screen, so but these episodes, these Friday episodes that are This Week in News, we do share screens a lot, so you would get a lot out of coming and watching on YouTube. Just putting that out there. But yeah, so let's dive in here to This Week in News. Why don't we we'll go ahead and hit my first topic. And it's really kind of an overview of the winners and losers from Google's March 2023 core update. That finished rolling out last week. Just as I'm pulling up the screen here, any quick takes from your side of things? It sounds like you're still building websites and have vision into that on the update from Google.
Yeah, so I mean, I went over this, right, and kind of see what she said in the notes you had. The winners, right? Wikipedia, Amazon, eBay. Is anyone really surprised there? And then with the losers, with like the dictionary sites, I wonder how much of that is like SERP features or like a featured snippet is like, do you really need to click through the site to get the definition of the word? So I think, without diving deeper, right, I don't know how much of a picture I guess this would truly paint, right, without, going through each one and seeing what really happened.
Yeah, so I have the article that Lily Ray published, and she was a podcast guest a while back, probably about 6 months ago. We actually brought her on to talk about updates. And I think it was very interesting to hear her perspective on updates. So she published a really in-depth report on it. And you're right, a lot of the winners were some of the big players. Like, it's funny because I hate talking about it because it's kind of niche site owners, right? Like, we get frustrated when updates come out and bigger sites win and smaller sites lose. And that's kind of what we saw here. Like, big e-com sites like Amazon, they won. Big e-com sites like eBay, they won. Smaller e-com sites definitely took a bit of a hit. You talked about it a bit. Like, one thing that stood out here is these dictionary sites and synonym sites and thesaurus sites. That's a mouthful. They definitely lost a little bit. One thing I thought I would highlight here is some of the product review sites that came out ahead and down. This wasn't a product review update. It was a core update, but nonetheless, it's always fun to see in core updates which sites go up and down as it relates to some of the stuff that a lot of the audience is doing, right? So if you wanted, here's a list like androidpolice.com, feltmagnet.com, mybartender, don'twasteyourmoney.com. That's a common one. I also thought I'd point out, I would love to get your take on this. Let me scan down to it. Here's some evidence that maybe this experience addition to EEAT is maybe making its way in. Lily surfaced some sites like pethelpful.com that won like almost a 600% increase. And this is an example of a site where there's a lot of evidence that experience is in the writing style, the naming of the authors, the experts who write for the site, sufficient examples of real experience. So that's interesting because, that got introduced just a couple months ago, and it might be interesting to see how they kind of put that into practice going forward.
Yeah, I think so, right? And then it's going back and looking at these and studying their writing style, right? And then how could you implement this on your site, right? Could you have your writer say, hey, use first person versus, third person or whatever it might be. I guess in a sense is like, could you kind of game this a little bit, right? Can you pick up something here that you could say, hey, you know what? Like, we could do a few little tweaks here and there on our affiliate sites and then see if, how that plays out for you.
That's exactly what I would recommend. Like, if you're wondering how to implement experience, if you're not sure about how that really looks, like, is it important or not? Certainly a look at these 5 websites that Lily surfaced would be a good use of time. See if you can find some commonalities and then maybe spark some ideas for how you might be able to apply that to your website, because a lot of times, we do a lot of site audits over at my agency. And a lot of times, you're working with people who are experts or are actually using the product or are actually writing about something they know about, but they're not doing a very good job of showcasing it to Google, So sometimes you might pick up a hint where it's like, oh, I could do that because I'm already doing it. I'm just not actually visibly showing that on my website. Mm-hmm. Let's go over to your topic. I'll go ahead and pull up what you brought up for this week in news. And again, let me know if you can see... Josh, can you see Barry Adams' tweet here on
No,
on
I still see. I still see Lily's article.
Good. Let me switch it over then. Sorry, guys. We're just I'm learning how to share the right screen here. So there we go. Okay, should be coming up right now.
Yep. So I had saw Barry posted this, and I guess for those who don't know, Barry Adams, he's like one of the top Google News publishers, runs a Google News conference. Really smart SEO. But so he pointed out that he saw publishers were blocking the CC bot and the robots.txt files. Mm-hmm. And essentially what this is it's common crawl data, and this is what OpenAI is using to train GPT. So I just thought this was really interesting. I mean, I guess, yeah, if you don't want them training, AI off of your site, but at the same time, is this going to benefit you or them? I don't really know. I don't know how it plays out. I just thought it was kind of interesting that, people are already thinking about this. Me personally, I think AI is going to get trained with or without, one of our sites. I don't know. What's your thoughts on it, Jared?
Yeah, boy, that is, obviously people have been blocking like Ahrefs for a while, mm-hmm. right? So that competitors can't get their data and find that they, kind of see that they have different keywords they're ranking for, different backlinks they're getting. So that's been around for a while. And I've always kind of been like, well, I kind of like seeing my site in Ahrefs and getting my own data. So I'll deal with other people seeing my stuff with the exchange that I can see it because I want that information about where my keywords are doing, all that kind of stuff. This is interesting because unlike the Ahrefs example I just gave, like you could block Common Crawl and not necessarily really have any damaging effects to your own brand. So to some degree, my first take is, why wouldn't you? But I don't know. I haven't really thought about it much. What would you do?
Right now, I don't know, right? I think, like, I feel that, like, either way, like, if I block it on my site, either way, they're going to find the information they need to train the AI.
Yep.
And then also, too, I think it's interesting.
Next man up.
Yeah, right. And two, I think it's interesting is we're going to see more and more content created with ChatGPT, OpenAI. So then if Common Crawl is crawling that, then it's like the AI is training the AI. Like, how does that even work? You know what I mean? I mean, and right. I guess it's just such a small part. Battle. Yeah, there's maybe a small part of the internet right now that would be utilizing that. I guess over time it's going to grow more. I don't know. I just think it's interesting. I mean, one, I never thought about it, and to see somebody else like, hey, like they're actively doing it. I wasn't even familiar with Common Crawl data and how AI was getting trained. So it was just kind of eye-opening, and I think it's just something to kind of think about as this space continues to grow and develop so quickly. I guess just to see how, the world and the internet respond to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously, if you go down that road, you're going to have to start thinking about blocking all the different AI softwares that are going to be out there, because ChatGPT is probably one of many that will exist. So, well, very good. Let's move on to the next segment here. We now are able to move over to Now That's Impressive. I always feel like that's a nice catch line. This is where we talk about just different wins we saw online and in the online world. I'm going to go ahead and let you start off for this one. We'll kind of do a little swap here. And I know that, let's see here, you had a ChatGPT story that you wanted to talk about as it relates to photos.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's in the niche site world, right? It's like at Black Friday, everybody is running to AppSumo and loading up on stock photo credits, to get ready for the new year. I actually seen a tweet from this guy here, Adam, and that photo you're looking at, it's for those not watching YouTube, it's a woman running through a field wearing like a Nike running shirt. And I mean, she's just running through a field, but this photo was created in Midjourney, version 5. And to me, I mean, it looks like a pretty real photo. It looks really good. And so, like, is this the end of needing to get stock photos? And to create this, to get version 5, I believe you have to be on a paid program, which I think starts at like $10 a month or $96 a year. And then also to be able to have commercial license, so you could technically use it on your site for commercial use. But I just think it's interesting, like, is this the end of stock photo sites, like needing to go to Shutterstock or all the other ones out there and spend hundreds of dollars a year, you pay $100 a year and teach a VA some different prompts, and, now you're cranking out original photos, somewhat original for your articles. Does that help your experience, the site? I don't know. I think it could be pretty interesting.
Man, I think it is fascinating. Obviously, I mean, that image is just as good as a lot of the stock photos you'll find on, deposit photos and stuff like that. You hit the nail on the head. I wonder how it's going to impact some of the more nuanced search requirements. Well, I'll use requirements in air quotes. Like Google has said, we're adding experience to our criteria of what we look for. Experience, and they say a lot of it has to do with the photos you share. And so I wonder if I can prompt Midjourney to say, like, show me a photo, build me a photo of me unboxing a iPhone 14, and like, I mean, how would it do with that? I mean, it's one thing to get a very good looking, realistic photo of a woman running through a field at sunset. And it's like, man, that's beautiful. Better picture than most people can take. But can it bring out images that are experienced, that check the experience box for Google,
Yeah, I don't know if it can yet, but I think it's coming, and I think it's going to come quick. One thing I thought too, I didn't think about it like you as the unboxing, but one thing I thought is, say you have, a site about, basketball goals or whatever, right? And it's, hey, you got a guy, or a girl, whatever, playing basketball, and they're wearing a shirt with your brand on it, your website name. I've heard people say that the text on the images is not as good yet, but what happens when it gets there, right? And then now your whole site has a bunch of people using or doing the activity of the site wearing branded gear. What happens there? I don't know. I just think it's going to be so interesting the next, year or two.
Yeah, it's fascinating because a lot of, like, in our world as website builders and bloggers, like, we're really focused on a lot of times like the Chat GPT section, the Bard section of AI, right? But AI is coming. Last week, Spencer and I talked about Canva and AI as it relates to design, Firefly, Adobe's design related AI. This week, we're talking about images and how AI is affecting images. It was on one of my lists, but AI as it affects video. Like, we could have talked about, there was some video news this week in AI and how it affects video. We haven't talked about it yet, but there's also AI and voiceover. I'm sure you've seen some of that. So,
Did you see the one with Kanye? It was like a white guy and he was rapping, and then it came back as Kanye.
That's just nuts. I mean, I was joking with my wife that, like, I'm going to start sending her stuff in Morgan Freeman's voice,
Yeah,
it's not
leave
hard
her a
to do now.
voicemail. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, can you get some milk on the way home from the grocery store? But actually, it's Morgan Freeman telling her that.
Yeah, or then it's, hey, you create a YouTube video and Morgan Freeman is, he's repping your basketball site, which that'd probably be a lot of legal issues there. But I mean, I don't know. I think it's going to be wild, man, the next year or two.
I agree. So, well, it's a good topic you brought up. I'm glad you were talking. I have a personal interest in the photo space, having been a professional photographer, and I know a lot of friends still in that space. I have a lot of professional photographer friends who've kind of echoed like concerns about what does this mean for my business, and so it's very interesting to see, and we'll probably want to just leave it there.
One last thing, Jared, before we jump on. I mean, like, what are they thinking? Like, are they thinking like, hey, how could we be proactive, or what is it that we could do more personal touch? Like, of course, this is more online, but I'm just curious about the offline world. And because I guess my assumption is that a lot of the offline world isn't too familiar with the AI, with the Chat GPT, as much as we are in the marketing world yet,
I mean, it's definitely a big deal in the professional photographer community. It's not going unnoticed, and it's not flying under the radar. And I think, we are talking more in the last year or two in the online world about creating brands instead of creating websites, creating something that actually people return to, they visit, right? Instead of just creating a niche website that, is faceless and just so, but in the photo world, we've been talking about that topic for a decade plus now, right? And I'm not in the photography world anymore, but I still keep up on it. But like, we almost went through something like this when we switched from film to digital, where the ability to take really good pictures became a lot easier. Kind of like the ability to write pretty darn good content now just became a lot easier with ChatGPT. And so the people that continued to win as photographers are the people who did more than just take good pictures. They created a wonderful experience. So a lot of threads of similarity there, but I hear a lot of people in the photo space saying, hey, we've kind of gone through this 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's it's going to be about your brand, and it's going to be about the experience you create in addition to taking great photos. So,
yeah, cool.
Or I guess now we would say producing great photos.
Yeah, I guess very similar, right? And it's just build the brand, and which is what we all need to do, either online or offline.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Like none of us have the crystal ball on AI and how it's going to play out in our worlds, but the more brand you create, the less AI will influence or impact some of the things you're doing. I think we can probably all agree on that.
Absolutely.
Let's jump over to my Now That's Impressive. This is, I saw on Twitter that the founder of AI PRM, Christoph, he shared, and this is probably a week or two old now, but he shared that they hit 13 days in, they hit 6,000 paid users of this AI PRM software. I didn't spend much time on it, but it looks like a Chat GPT prompting service, and people can correct me if I'm wrong in the chat here. Like I said, didn't spend much time on it, but anytime you can launch a product, launch a service, launch a software, and 13 days in, you're getting 6,000 paid users. That's impressive, and it's also really interesting to just see all the new opportunities that are created as people are utilizing AI and creating new products for it.
So I just did the quick math because I checked it out, and I know he had a tier at $20 a month. And just to make sure, no public math, right? It's $120,000 a month in 13 days. MMR, like, that's pretty wild, man. That's great for him. Congratulations. That's very impressive.
That's approaching a $3 million a year revenue. $3 million a year business. It's very impressive. I mean, like I said, I haven't played around with it, but expert prompt engineers publish the best prompts for you right away. AI PRM is your AI prompt toolkit, everything you need to promote, to prompt for generative AI tools, including ChatGPT. So I might check it out. This isn't an endorsement. I haven't used it, but this is kind of our section to talk about some impressive things that we've seen. And I would say that's pretty impressive for 13 days in.
So there is a free version. It's a Google Chrome plugin. You can add it, and then when you go to ChatGPT, you'll see all the preset options, I guess, from the community. Like, hey, I need a YouTube script or a blog or headline art, whatever it might be. I did play with the free version, weeks back. I just wasn't too impressed with the free version of the prompts. But I didn't put a lot of time into it. I just said, click, give me this. And I just didn't like what it gave me. I'd rather just kind of put in what I want to put in.
What do you get with the paid version? Do you know like the differences that you get free versus paid?
Yeah, so looking at it there, it said it was like 38 or 48 expert prompts. I don't know what determines what's an expert prompt and what's not an expert prompt, I think it's really interesting. Like, I feel like it is kind of, for me personally, right? I haven't used the paid version, but like I'm paying $20 for ChatGPT and then pay another $20 for this on top of it. I mean, it's only $40, right? I mean, it's not like it's breaking the bank, but at the same time, do I really need that to help me create the prompts? And I guess maybe I guess it depends where they're getting these expert prompts and how much. If this person's using it, 50 hours a week and I'm using it 5 hours a week, they probably found a lot more things than I have. So I could see, where maybe it is beneficial, but I don't know. I think it's really interesting, and I think the fact that you're, over $100,000 in a few days is very impressive, But smart move on his part,
I think I might treat it kind of like I did when I was just getting started in blogging, and I couldn't afford Ahrefs on a monthly basis. I just didn't have enough revenue coming in from any of my websites yet. And so I'd sign up for like a month at a time, and I'd do all my work, and then 6 months later I'd come back as I needed it, right? And so for me, I'll probably opt into the paid version for a month or something, and see if it dramatically changes the way I'm able to use ChatGPT. And if at the end of the month I go, not that much different, I didn't use it that much, maybe I'll drop it. But if I get a lot of value out of it, maybe I'll stick around, or maybe I just need to get a couple good ideas and then, move on from it or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, right? Maybe you get in, you say, hey, I found these prompts, I'm going to build on these prompts, and then I'm good. Or, and then again, right, it's, it's $20 a month, and it's like, hey, like,
right,
this saves me an hour a month. That's well worth $20, right?
At some point, it's just like, how much time did it save me? It saved me time. Cool. $20 worth it, so yeah.
Yeah. And, I think one more thing too is interesting, but he has another tool, it's something to do with backlinks or something. It's been around
he's been around a while. Yeah, Spencer. I was talking to Spencer about this with him last week, and he knows Christoph. He's like, oh yeah, he's made this tool and that tool, and he kind of rattled off some. So
yeah, so he's been around the industry for a long time, I think. But I guess what I was going to say is that you see so many of these. Hey, people are using ChatGPT this way, but I have the best 50 prompts for you. Retweet this, and I'm going to DM you, right? So I think it's just so much overload right now of everybody with so many prompts and so many that are free. I just think it's really interesting that it's become a paid tool, and
And there's a
Yeah, I
market
guess how
for
long
it.
does it last? You know what I mean?
There's a market for it at this point, man.
Yeah,
what a
exactly right. Very interesting, and yeah, props to him though for coming up with it in testing the free version and then getting the paid version out quickly.
You bring up a great point, actually, that we should underscore. Like, market or no market, he tested it, and he got a lot of people using a free version. And again, why not launch a paid version and see if there's a market for it, right? And there's a very. I was actually talking. I had lunch a couple weeks ago with someone who's in town in SEO, and he was like, "I don't think I should charge this much for this because I just don't think it's worth that much." And I'm like, I don't really care how much I think it's worth or you think it's worth. Let the market dictate what it's worth. Maybe it isn't worth that, but maybe it is worth that. And props to him for putting it out there and just seeing what the market dictated. And clearly there's some value there given his impressive launch.
Yeah, and I would be curious too now that we talk about it is how many free users did he have and how many converted to paid? If he had 6,000 paid users, I can imagine his free users are massive,
Well, his homepage said 80,000 people use it. So
okay, 80,000. Okay, wow. So less than 10% converted to paid, but that's great, right? And you know what? Even if you probably already built with the free version, you'd had to add a few more features or a few more things to put it behind a paywall. And if now you're making $3 million a year, like that's awesome,
Before we jump into the podcast, I wanted to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by Search Intelligence. Here's a short clip of Ferry from Search Intelligence showing you how their agency built digital PR links to a client's website.
What a crazy campaign. How to Sleep on Your Back. This campaign got us links in Huffington Post, Glamour magazine, Mirror, and lots of other great news publications. Let me show you how we've done it. It was so simple. Our sleep client provided us with expert commentary about how to train yourself to fall asleep on your back. They also gave advice on why it's best to sleep on your back. Once we've had this information, we went to Muckrack and searched for journalists that consistently write about sleep and well-being. We've sent these journalists the advice provided by the client, and within one day the links started flowing in. Glamour magazine, a DR81 website, picked it up. Huffington Post, DR88, Mirror UK, DR90. A massive avalanche of links blasted to our client's website with this simple yet effective campaign about how to sleep on your back. I hope this inspires, and I hope you'll use this technique to land massive links to your or your client's website.
If you want similar link building PR campaigns for your website, head to search-intelligence.co.uk and get in touch with them now. Well, we're just speculating on what he did and whatnot, but again, just circling back to giving everybody who's listening that idea of, what an impressive launch, but on the back of a tool that he created quickly, because ChatGPT has not been around that long, and then continued to explore monetization. Props to him for doing that, and we'll see how it turns out. Okay, let's move on to our next segment. I gotta pull up my notes here. Man, I tell you, Spencer, like, he seamlessly changes the screens and move. He's good at this. I'm like between two screens right now trying to manage all this. Anyways. Let's move on to shiny object shenanigans. Let's see. So this is a segment where we talk about our distractions, our shiny object, little kind of pet projects, whatever you want to call it. So Spencer and I've been kind of talking about the same one each week. Now I'm going to first highlight Spencer's because I have an update on behalf of Spencer, even though he's gone this week. He's been talking about the Faceless YouTube project, and he got it last week. We pretty much assumed that by this time this week, he would be at the magic 1,000 subscriber mark, which that combined with watch time allowed him to start to monetize his YouTube channel with AdSense and ad revenue basically coming in. And so he did announce in email, I think earlier this week on Wednesday, that it's hit that 1,000 subscriber mark. So we'll have to get the update from him next week on where it's going, but he has hit that mark. A good reminder, if you're not on the newsletter, you can go to nichepursuits.com/newsletter and get signed up for that. Spencer emails, 3 times a week, I think. All sorts of stuff related to what we're talking about here. So, what do you think of that faceless YouTube project that he's talked about?
I think it's great, right? Like I have looked at the idea of these for a few years. So I'm glad to see like he just is going for it and tested it. And like I see so many channels on YouTube like, hey, I tried YouTube automation for 30 days, 60 days. I think it's great, right? Like me personally, I watch more YouTube than I do TV. And I heard something recently too that families are now watching more time on YouTube than they are on Netflix. So I just think again, like YouTube is just growing, and whether you're working and you put it on in the background, or whether you're on the couch now with smart TVs and you can turn it on, I think it's great, and it's passive, right? There's nothing, and one thing too, like I like to say is, when's the last time you heard about a Google update hitting YouTube?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, hey, they're not worried about the core update. You know what I mean? If you get a channel big enough, right, and then if you can monetize with ads, affiliate, or is this something he could build a site around that just to send people to the site, and now Google's like not even the Google traffic is not even in your mind. You're just getting referral traffic from YouTube, getting emails, selling a product or whatever. We don't know what his niche is, right? And selling something to them, right? Is like, how much bigger can you get it,
Well, I don't want to over promote, but the podcast, we've been talking about that a lot in our interviews. Steve Chu's interview this week that went live a couple days ago, he talked a lot about YouTube. I already have recorded another episode that'll be hitting soon with a very well-known person in the online world, and we spend most of the time talking about his approach to YouTube. Tons of great information in that upcoming podcast. So we're definitely talking about it a lot. Obviously, this is a unique twist on it with this faceless approach. A lot of bloggers are nervous about putting their face in front of the camera. They don't want to do what I do all day, which is sit here and chat about this stuff with the camera on. And so it's an interesting project. But anyways, we'll get an update from Spencer next week. I just wanted to hear your take on it. Let me, I'll share my update on mine. I've been talking about starting an email list for people in this space and trying to share some different tips and tricks. And so not a lot of crazy updates. We sent another email out this week. I've committed to sending 1 email a week for 3 months to test it out. So got another one out. Continue to get good feedback. Continue to get high open rates. The subscriber list is growing. I think we're approaching like 800 people on the list. Nice. Last week I shared that I'm going to try to take some of these emails that I'm creating and put them into video format as well. Good progress. I did hire a couple of different people to test for video editing because just me recording, talking about the email, it just felt so boring, Yep. So getting someone to come in and edit and kind of clean it up and put some visuals in and make it a little bit more exciting. So I've got a couple of the tests back and they're looking pretty good. I'm going to have to figure out which person to kind of go with for the rest of the videos. But hopefully by this time next week, we'll have that first video live on some YouTube channel that I have to create. It hasn't been created yet.
Nice.
So
nice. Yeah, I'm on your list, Jared.
Anyway,
your emails are great, right? And it's so much information in there. How long is it taking you to put one email together?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So there's a couple workflow things I'm dealing with. So I'm first off, they take a while. I don't think they're going to take a while because I'm like, I know the subject I'm talking about really well. That's why I want to talk about it. And then the nuances of getting it ready, like even just like spell checking and organizing and making sure I have the right, screen shares. Like last one, I think I shared 14 screenshots and stuff and haven't gotten that all done. So they take a while. And then I realized that I want to send them on a Tuesday. But in order to send them on a Tuesday, I have to have them over to someone on our team who kind of builds them out in MailerLite by Monday. And that means I kind of have to have it written by Monday, which really means I have to have it written by Friday the week before.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, man. So this week's went out on Wednesday because, full disclosure, I didn't get my act together until about Monday afternoon. And I was like, oh, my gosh, I still have to create the email that's going to send. And I missed my time slot for Tuesday. So they take a while. I haven't timed myself. I'm almost afraid to time myself. They do take a while.
Yeah, I mean, because, man, they're super detailed, right? Like you said, all the screenshots, and maybe it's moved to Thursday. That way it's like, hey, you got a little bit of a buffer at the start of the week.
That's not a bad idea. Maybe I should just tell myself Tuesday, what am I doing to myself? Let's just do Thursday.
Yeah, right. That way, it's like, hey, you get a little maybe more relaxed, And since it's a side project, right? It's like, hey, that way it's not as much pressure to run and gun and get it out and to maintain the quality.
It's a good point. In a perfect world, it is a great thing to be doing as I'm winding down on a Friday afternoon. You're kind of winding into the weekend. I do take weekends off. So Friday afternoon, Friday, 3, 4 o'clock is kind of finishing, closing up shop. And so it is nice to kind of ease in the weekend with this kind of side project. But you're right. If I don't get it done by Friday, then it kind of becomes it's become a little bit of a stress point early on in the week. So,
yeah.
Anyways, well, let's hear about your shiny object.
Okay, yes. So, yeah, this was tough. I'm like, hey, like which 20 do I pick here,
You're in good company.
Yeah, right. It's trying to focus, right? Trying to I've culled some at the end of last year and now even this year culling more. But one thing we did is we're rebranding. My son had a YouTube channel. He started like in 2020. Okay. He's 10 now, so then he was like 7.
Wow. I have a 7-year-old. That's crazy to think of.
Yeah, right. And so it was a lot of like going to we're outside of Houston. The Houston Zoo, really a great zoo. He would go there and film animals and put them up. Shorts, I think it just came out around this time. And he put up one of a tiger. And like I woke up, it was like Black Friday. I woke up, it had like 10,000 views overnight. And it was just wild. So he has like snakes and different lizards and all kinds of stuff on there, elephants. But so he got up to 165 subscribers and 68,000 views with just his random stuff. And then of course, like I mentioned, like the family's watching YouTube. He watches a lot of YouTube. So now like the family, we all watch different families on YouTube. And it's like, hey, you know what? Like, what if we just rebrand this channel and we make it a family channel and we just start putting videos out? So we just did that the other day. We just did the first one. Him and I did a 10-piece chicken nugget McDonald's eating challenge, and we raced to see who could eat it the fastest. We didn't go viral, so bummer there. But we had a good time doing it.
Yeah.
And then I think last weekend we filmed another one. It's called a cake flip challenge, where you set up some cameras and you go buy cakes and you throw it up and then you try to catch it. And of course it's pretty hard to catch it and it turned out to be a mess. So we got to get that one edited and get it out. So it's just something like just to have fun. He loves it. For me, it's a way to get him kind of in the online world. Kind of like we've been talking about here already. Like I think video is already big, but I think it's still going to get even bigger. Right. I think for niche site builders to stand out in an AI world where everybody can go create the same AI content and put up 1,000 articles in a month, I think getting comfortable on camera and putting this stuff out there is only going to set you further up and to help you to build the brand. So I think there's a lot of different things I'm trying to get out of it, but the main thing is just have fun and then get the family involved.
I was going to say, you found a way to combine the world we live in with spending time with your son, doing fun things with your son, and teaching him about a world that he's going to be entering as an adult. By the time he's an adult, we don't even doing video anymore, but you know what I mean? Like he's going to be entering this world. You're finding a great way to do that with him, and who knows where it'll go. Maybe the cake flip turns into 100,000 views when you wake up the next morning.
Hopefully, right? And that's some of these channels like we watch. Like one of them is a channel called Funnel Vision, right? And it's like, I think they have 10 or 20 million subscribers, and it's an 8-figure a year business. So of course, I'm thinking like a marketer's like, hey, can I drop affiliate links in the description and do this? But right now, it's just having fun, getting them involved in a good way for me just to get more comfortable being on camera because it is tough, getting here and putting yourself out there and put yourself on camera, just getting the reps in and then just kind of see where things go.
Yeah, you talk to most YouTubers who are successful now, whatever your measure of success is, but maybe 100 videos in, and to a T, they all say, oh my gosh, my first videos, I'll go back and watch them. And I'm like, what was I doing? How did I even make it here with the videos I was producing? My first 5 videos were just awful. The sound, the boring, all these things. You got to cut your teeth, Actually, I have not listened to my first 5 podcast interviews, and I would not want to go back and do that. I feel sorry for the poor suckers who were the first 5 people I had to interview. I feel like I've probably gotten better since then. All of this stuff just takes practice.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, your podcast interviews are great, And there's a Mr. Beast clip somewhere out there from an interview he did, and he said that everybody always asks him, hey, what can I do to make better videos? Or, hey, I just started, like, how can I make my videos better? He said, go shoot 100 videos, then come back and talk to me about how to be better, right? So it's like the toughest part of, though, is getting the first one, and then it's like, okay, you got one, now you got to get the second one, and then to get through that 100. So, yeah, I mean, it's just good for him, good for me, good for the family, and we're all having fun doing it. So
I'm on, she's pretty popular on Twitter, Niche Site Lady.
Yep.
She's a good follow, shares great information. Her emails are fantastic. And I don't know when she's been sharing recently over the last couple of months about how she's trying to start filming her own videos, and they're just taking forever, you know? But I appreciate her approach, because it's always like, I know this is taking forever, and I know I will get better at it, and I know I'll continue to knock time off of it. I know the videos will continue to be better quality. I'm going to learn about how to produce them better. I'm going to learn about how to storyline them better. And I appreciate that approach, because it's a reminder, like, yeah, your first video is going to take a long time, and it's probably not going to be very good. And that's just part of the process. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's understanding the equipment, the lighting, there's so many things that go into it. But the beauty of it is you can find all the information on YouTube. But the biggest thing is just getting started. You just hey, I don't have this fancy DSLR camera or mirrorless camera with the wide angle lens. Like, we're using our smartphones, turn them sideways, and it looks great. We got to work on sound quality and stuff like that. But there's always just going to be things you can iterate. And things that I've gathered, like Mr. B says and other creators are saying, is they're saying do it once, and then the next one just get a little bit better, better. Each time, just try to improve a little bit. And I think, I think it's great for anything we're trying to do, building sites or make videos, whatever it is just getting started and then trying to just get a little bit better each time.
Yeah. Good thoughts. Let's move on to our last segment here. This is perhaps my favorite one, was where we talk weird niches. Now, if we're following our back and forth, that means that you're up and you get to bring a weird niche to the table. And I'm going to bring it up here on the screen too. So if you're watching on YouTube, you get to kind of ride along with us. Why don't you take us through this site?
Yep. So the site is tastelybox.ca. That's TASTELYBOX.ca. So it's a Canadian candy store. But again, this came from YouTube, right? We've seen this on YouTube. And what they're doing is they're getting everyday candy, like you think Skittles or Starburst, Sour Patch Kids, and they put it in this machine that is freeze drying the candy, and then the candy comes out. It blows the candy up. Yeah, like those are Skittles. Like it makes the candy bigger. It dries it out, and no matter what it is, it's going to come out crunchy. So it's really interesting. And like this couple here, they have like 2 million followers on TikTok. Their site's 2 years old. And I was reading a little bit about them, and so it looks like they already had 2 candy shops in Canada, but then this whole freeze-dried movement came about, and then they started packaging it, filming it online, I guess selling it in their shops, and now they're selling it online, and you can see, like you're on, like a bag of candy that would be like $2 at the store, they're selling it for $8 or $9, right? So, and I think it's interesting because anybody could do this. I mean, you just go to the store, buy a bunch of candy. My wife did look into getting one of these machines. They're like $3,000 to $5,000.
Well, you could buy a freeze dryer for a lot less than that. I don't know if it would work on candy, but I used to backpack, and we would freeze dry food to take backpacking with us. We didn't have a budget growing up to buy a $3,000 to $5,000 freeze dryer, so I can promise you whatever it was a fraction of that cost.
Interesting. Yeah. So then that might be, it would be cool to see somebody try this, is go get a freeze dry machine and buy some candy and start putting some TikToks out. You don't have to show your face or whatever, YouTube shorts, and see if you could blow it up into a little business,
I mean, look at this. They have, I found some information on them on the screen. James and Polly started in 2021. Follow us on TikTok and Instagram to join our 2.1 million followers. I mean, this brand was just started in 2021.
Yeah. Yeah. It's with like, yeah, the site's like just 2 years old now, it's pretty wild. It's, again, I think it is like a trend. I don't know how long it's going to last. But I think if somebody has the time and like you want to, like, I think this fits really well into the shiny object shenanigans. It's one, you can create content around it, and two, then you can sell what you're creating content around. So it's kind of like a double whammy there,
Yeah, it looks like a pretty simple Shopify site. It doesn't look overcomplicated. Not, just classic setup. You got your categories, you got your product SKUs and your product pages and your homepage, and they pretty much, they don't have an about page on there. You just got to look at the homepage for that. So very good niche. That's fun. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I bet they're not SEOs. So if an SEO did go put up a Shopify store, you probably could outrank them for some of these keywords. And there might not be a lot of search volume, but I mean, I'm sure if you look at Google Trends, you will see that it's probably exploding,
I wasn't going to comment, but you're right. As I was looking at the site, I was like, oh, we need about page. Oh, we got to get better category description, better product descriptions. Oh, is this marked up properly? I'm not going to go into the schema.
yeah. Opportunity there.
There you go. All right. Good. I like this food theme we have going. Last week, Spencer brought the Costco hot dog. You're bringing the candy. Should stick with this. I haven't caught on to that. I'm sticking with other niches. My niche.
I think yours is
this
great.
Week,
yeah.
I went back and forth. I don't know if you saw in the notes. I switched it this morning. I had a different one planned out, and I switched it today.
I thought that maybe was last week's because I was like, wow, that's wild too, right? That was who thinks of these things?
So here we have it. It is TitanicFacts.net. This is a website completely dedicated to the Titanic, the boat that sank in the Atlantic. And I just was blown away that there's an entire site about the Titanic. Yeah. The homepage seems to be focused on Titanic facts, but if you go look around, and by the way, this is just a very basic article right here. Basically, it's the history in numbers, and it just literally goes through. They're not even bullet points. They're just how long was the ship? How many tons was it? And then you can kind of navigate through the site, and you can look up like Titanic passengers and get, again, just a list of facts about the Titanic. There were 3,547 was the maximum capacity of the Titanic when fully loaded. 2,222 people were on board, et cetera. And so it's just big lists of things related to the Titanic. Building the Titanic, how long it took, when it commenced, all this kind of stuff. Pull the site up in Ahrefs, and it ranks for it's a DR39. It ranks for over 10,000 keywords. Estimated traffic is 33,000, which we know that typically Ahrefs will under predict, right? So I mean, it could be getting 50, 60,000 page views a month. Here's where I think it gets really interesting, and I'll scroll down while you comment, Josh.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I just checked in SimilarWeb, and it says 90,000 a month, and the domain is 12 years old. So, I mean, whoever created this, right, like, they've been on it for a while, and I bet they've just been cashing checks, man. Like, I think this is amazing. Like, who would have thought to build this? I mean, this guy apparently, and I think it's a great example of what is now semantic SEO, or what we would say topical authority, is that he just went and covered every section of the Titanic, and it's put it in the navigation. Like, the SEO on the site looks really great,
I agree. I mean, it's not a big site. It's only got 50 pages. Again, roughly 50. We pulled it up here on the screen in Ahrefs, but I mean, it's not a big site. And so you just nicely teased where I was going to go. If you go down, it's just monetized by AdSense, by the way, I think. It doesn't look like it's a premium ad network. But it's a very basic site, super easy to build. Mm-hmm. And you're right. If you have any kind of programmatic SEO experience, like this would be something that you could probably create quickly. If you go down to the footer, it says basically this site was created by somebody named Dave Fowler, and it links to history in numbers. So if you then, just doing what I do, I'm just curious, I start going over to history in numbers. Now it looks like just another one of these number web pages, but no, it's not. This is a dashboard or a gateway to what I would imagine are all the different data sites this guy has built. Here's one, and if you go, Roald Dahl Facts. He's the guy who wrote a lot of those books you read in junior high and high school. Here's the Titanic site, but there's also an Oliver Cromwell. There's also a William Shakespeare, the Vikings. He's got a couple sites he's built out that are focused, and then some of them just link to here we go, landspeedrecord.org. It's just a fast site on fascinating facts of the history of the heroes and the cars of land speed records. And we could go look at that website. Some of them link out to categories on his site here on history and numbers. So it's clear he's kind of built out like a bit of an online empire around these topics.
Around history, right? Excuse me. I think it's so impressive that the history and numbers, I looked here and it is 7 years old, right? So he's been at it for so long, and it doesn't even have any competition. But I think too now, like you mentioned with the programmatic and now with AI, like you could spin these sites up pretty quickly. Then what is there to update, right? There's not going to be a lot of new information come out about the Titanic. I
think you can think about the Titanic, but just starting to rattle off, like you could do one in the Empire State Building. You could do one on the Statue of Liberty. You could do one. Every country had the Eiffel Tower, and the Titanic's not a landmark; it's more of an event. But just thinking through what he did, and oh my goodness, your mind just starts to kind of rattle off.
Add this to the shiny object list.
Next week we're gonna have you back on, Josh, and you're gonna spit out 5 of these websites. So,
right. Spencer, I'm calling in sick.
I got a little bit of programmatic SEO to crank out. I'll be there by lunch.
Yeah, right. It's I think this is amazing, man. This is a really great find, and like you said, there's so many ideas and possibilities of different things, and I think it's just start looking at history and go to Ahrefs and see how many keywords are there, and this guy's got 50 pages. Can you find 50 to 100 pages? And within a weekend or two, you could probably knock out one of these sites with AI and put it up, let it sit, and go on about your business. And in 3 to 6 months,
and to your
come
point,
back. And
Google Trends would be a great place to research and find more information on stuff like this. That's an oft ignored or forgotten area to spend time on. But man, you could probably find a lot of good stuff relating to these kinds of topics on Google Trends.
And then tying this into the faceless YouTube, right? You build a site around the Titanic. You could create a faceless YouTube channel around the Titanic. There's a faceless YouTube channel called Nutty History that just covers a lot of their videos. I don't know if you come across them or not, but if you look, for me, I could just sit there and watch their videos, and it's all this kind of like B-roll put together, and it's a faceless video, but really well put together that could. Now you're building this whole brand even further, reaching more people.
A very successful YouTube channel I love to follow is something like The World According to Briggs or something like that. And he's got a huge channel. And I think he has shown his face a couple times, but most of the videos are faceless, and it's all B-roll of these stats, these history. It's more like stats on demographics and stuff that he goes through. They're really interesting. He's really good at it. I think that's why he's just such a good, energetic voice. The way he walks through boring data and makes it interesting. He's funny. But yeah, faceless YouTube channel, all based on kind of demographic data that he pulls from various reports, surveys, these kinds of things.
Does he have a site to go with it or no?
I haven't checked. I should look at that.
Yeah, it would be interesting, right? Hey, if he was to learn programmatic SEO, and now it's hey, you have the video, and now you're doing the site. And again, right now you're getting the YouTube traffic, you're getting the Google traffic, you doubled your ads. It's so many possibilities, so little time.
We've got to get off this call here, this podcast, so we can get back to work and start more shiny objects. Josh, it's been fun having you. Give us 1 or 2 minutes on what you're, we didn't talk much about Link Whisper, but that's kind of where you spend the bulk of your week. Just give us a little high level on what's going on over at Link Whisper before we close out for the day.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Jared. It's been fun too. What we're doing there is, right, we're just trying to steadily improve, right? There's a developer working full time that's continually trying to just make it better and make it better. Me on the marketing side is I'm just trying to let more people know that Link Whisper exists, get more new customers in, and grow the business that way. So far, we've been doing really well this year, so now we're just going to hope to just build on it and, try to just make it the best we can and let as many people know as possible that it does exist and we're out there and it can make their life easier. And one thing, too, we also have a coupon code for the podcast, if I could plug it, podcast15. If you go to linkwhisper.com, use podcast15, you'll save $15 if you want to give Link Whisper a shot.
And now, just before we go, because I get asked this a decent amount, there is a free version of Link Whisper, right? Like I use the paid version, but there is a free version, right?
There is a free version. Yep, WordPress.org. If you just Google Link Whisper free, you can go to WordPress.org and you can use it. And I think it's a lot of the same features as the pro version. I think you can get pretty far with it, But then again, the pro version it starts at $77 annually. So I mean, it's not too bad. Depends on where you are in your journey and how large your site is. It can save you a lot of time.
Yeah. Oh, well, going back to that ARPM, I've already forgotten exactly what the acronym is, but something you can use the free version for a while, and if you're using it, and it's saving you time. At some point you kind of look yourself in the mirror and say, all right, what's my time worth, right?
Exactly.
And that's what the pro version might be available for you.
Yeah, exactly, right. And like one thing is the orphan page report, right? Like, I'm sure you use Screaming Frog and you go more detailed, right? But if you don't have Screaming Frog or you don't even that's a whole nother animal. With Link Whisper, you can go and find your orphan pages that don't have any internal links, and just add them with a few clicks of a button, which can dramatically help your SEO.
Yep. And it's a lot easier to do in Link Whisper than to run a whole site crawl with Screaming Frog, for example.
A lot easier.
That takes a little time to set that up.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, it's been fun. Thanks for being a guest today. We'll probably see you again at some point. I don't even know if I'm going to keep getting invited back. But I've been here for a few, and we'll probably see you again. But thanks for joining us for this week's news. And again, we do these every Friday for now. It's new for us, so we'll see how many we keep doing. But as long as there's people enjoying it, we'll probably continue to do it. So definitely let us know your feedback in the comments. I know we had some audio issues a week or two ago that we do think we got cleaned up, so apologies for that. But in general, if you have any questions, any topics you want us to cover in the future, let us know in the comments there on YouTube. I do encourage, if you typically listen to the podcast on audio, maybe give this one a try on YouTube, because we do share the screens a lot and it's a lot more interactive. So, and then you can leave us a comment with how it's going. So anyways, thanks so much for joining us today, and have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks, Jared.
Today's episode is sponsored by Search Intelligence. Here's a short clip of Ferry from Search Intelligence showing you how their agency built digital PR links to a client's website.
What a masterpiece PR link building campaign, with 20 links in big publications such as The Sun, Express, Mirror, Wales Online, and still landing. I would say this campaign is a massive success. We told the press that people should turn on their heating this summer if they want to save money next winter. And we landed over 20 links in national and regional UK publications for our boiler client. That's crazy. The campaign hook was pretty clever. It is a known fact, at least in the boiler trade, that if you keep your boiler off for many months, it might rust and it might get you into trouble if you keep it turned off from spring to next winter. We therefore advise the press, with an expert commentary piece, on behalf of our boiler client, that people should turn on their boilers this summer just when the heat wave is in full swing. This way they can avoid a boiler failure next winter and save money. Massive publications picked up our story, including The Sun, Express, Mirror, Wales Online, and a few more dozen publications, giving our client links, lots of links, and lots of happiness hormones. No wonder that so many journalists covered our story, as this headline is a massive link magnet to their audience. This case study highlights the fact that a clever hook can be applied to any insight or story to make a campaign more successful and more compelling to journalists. Can you imagine when people see this headline in the news, "You should turn on your boiler this summer"? There's no way they would not click on it. I would click on it. So So this was the hook, and this is why this campaign was so successful. I hope this video inspires and shows you what's possible with a clever hook.
If you want similar link building PR campaigns for your website, head to search-intelligence.co.uk and get in touch with them now.